What if everything you thought you knew about history was only half the story? From vanished biblical texts and hidden extraterrestrial secrets, to fake mummies, papal scandals, and mysterious UFOs hovering over the Vatican, these are not legends. These are real accounts, recorded, witnessed, and in many cases silenced. Tonight, we're tearing open the vaults of secrecy, one story at a time. Welcome to the channel. Today, we journey into one of the most secretive places on Earth, the Vatican, a place worshipped by millions, yet shrouded in mystery. Over the centuries, behind its ancient walls, stories have emerged. Stories of silent heroes, hidden relics, forbidden texts, unexplained rituals, and even otherworldly encounters. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you never miss our latest mysteries. In this video, we unveil 12 astonishing accounts, from the Vatican's role in the Holocaust, to Emperor Nero's billion-dollar bathtub, to whispers of extraterrestrial alliances buried deep within sealed archives. Each story has been carefully selected, not just to shock you, but to make you think. So sit tight. This may be the most intriguing journey you take all week. Let's begin. 1. The fallen popes, when power corrupted the papacy. For nearly 2,000 years, the Pope has been regarded as the vicar of Christ, a symbol of holiness, morality, and spiritual authority on earth. But history tells a different story, a story of corruption, betrayal, and blood. Because not all popes were saints. Some were sinners. Others were monsters. In the 10th century, a time now referred to by historians as the pornocracy, the papacy fell under the control of powerful Roman families. Popes were no longer chosen for virtue, but bought, bribed, or forced into power. One pope fathered multiple illegitimate children, then appointed them as bishops. Another was so arrogant he declared himself a god. One was murdered during Mass, strangled on the altar. Another was found dead, allegedly poisoned with lead sugar by his own servants. But perhaps the most infamous case of all was Pope Formosus. After his death, his enemies were so filled with hatred, they ordered his corpse dug up, dressed in full papal garments, and placed on a throne. A dead pope put on trial. A trembling deacon was forced to speak on his behalf. The verdict, guilty. They cut off his blessing fingers, stripped him of his robes, and threw his body into the Tiber River. This was not legend, this was real history. Today, the Vatican seldom speaks of these fallen popes, but their names remain in secret registers, buried deep in sealed records. Why? Perhaps to protect the Church's image, or perhaps to remind future popes of one thing: holiness is not guaranteed by a crown. Even the highest throne on earth has been occupied by darkness. 2. Homosexuality in the Vatican, secrets behind holy walls. Behind the towering walls of the Vatican, behind the grandeur of St. Peter's Basilica, lies a secret few dare to speak of. For centuries, the Catholic Church has preached morality, tradition, and discipline. Yet inside, a very different reality thrives. In 2019, investigative journalist Frederick Martel revealed the shocking truth. Up to 80% of the clergy within the Vatican may be homosexual. But it's not just the numbers that astound, it's the paradox. Those who publicly denounce homosexuality may secretly live double lives. A life of secrecy, fear, and forbidden desire, all while serving at the heart of the world's most powerful religious institution. Some believe this hidden reality fuels scandals, abuse cover-ups, and decades of institutional hypocrisy. Others argue it is a culture forced into silence by centuries of tradition and dogma, and yet there are moments that pierce the veil. Pope Francis once told a survivor of abuse, "God made you like this, and He loves you as you are." A single statement, a flicker of light in the shadows, reminding the world that behind the Vatican's sacred walls, humanity in all its complexity endures. 3. The Altar of Moses, a sacred relic hidden in plain sight. In the depths of Vatican City, beneath layers of marble floors and sealed archives, whispers speak of an object so ancient, so sacred, that even mentioning its existence has been discouraged. They call it the Altar of Moses. According to legend, this was no ordinary altar. It was said to be the very platform where Moses himself stood before the Ark of the Covenant, where offerings were made directly to God, where divine laws were spoken, and miracles were witnessed. Some accounts claim it was carved from unhewn stone, built to exact holy specifications, untouched by iron tools, as commanded in Scripture. But here's where the mystery deepens. Several historians claim that after centuries of war, exile, and temple destruction, this sacred altar disappeared from history, but not forever, because some Vatican insiders quietly insist that deep within the restricted vaults of the Apostolic Archive, guarded by sworn oath and silence, lies a massive stone slab, cracked by time, scorched by unknown fire, and labeled only with one chilling inscription, Altare Moisi, the altar of Moses. Altare Moisi, taken for preservation or for possession? If the Vatican truly holds such a relic, is it being studied, hidden, or protected from us? Because if this altar really stood before the presence of God, then perhaps the Vatican knows something the world is not yet ready to face. Some objects are not just historical. They are still holy, and holiness can be dangerous. 4. Did the Vatican fabricate 300 years of history? The phantom timeline theory. What if everything you thought you knew about history was a lie? In the 1990s, German researcher Herbert Illig proposed a radical idea. Between the years 614 and 911 AD, 3 entire centuries were fabricated. According to Illig, Pope Sylvester II, Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, and a secretive few manipulated the timeline, inserting 300 phantom years into the historical record. Placing themselves at the heart of the first millennium, astronomical data, calendar anomalies, and suspiciously sparse archaeological evidence all point, he claims, to a meticulous historical forgery. Mainstream historians dismiss it as impossible. After all, could every civilization, from Europe to the Middle East and China, have participated in such an elaborate deception? And yet, the question lingers. If history can be rewritten by the powerful, how much of what we know is really true? The past may not be as solid as we think, and in the Vatican's shadow, perhaps even time itself was not sacred. 5. Emperor Nero's bathtub, luxury looted by the Church. Deep within the Vatican museums, surrounded by priceless paintings and sacred relics, sits one of the strangest artifacts ever owned by the Catholic Church. A massive marble basin carved from a single block of rare red porphyry stone, 6 feet tall, 25 feet across, weighing nearly 40 tons. Visitors call it a fountain. Tour guides call it a bathtub. Historians call it the property of a mad emperor. For years, rumors have circulated that this colossal basin once belonged to Emperor Nero, the most infamous ruler in Roman history. A man accused of murdering his own mother, burning Rome to the ground, and bathing in donkey's milk and violet oil while his people starved. Some claim this wasn't just a bath. It was a pool of luxury and vice. A place where Nero reclined like a god, while servants poured perfumes across his skin. But if that's true, how did a symbol of imperial decadence end up inside the Vatican, the headquarters of the Christian faith? Some believe the Church took it as a trophy, a way to reclaim Rome from its pagan past. Others whisper a darker theory, that the Vatican keeps such objects not to celebrate them, but to contain them, because certain relics of history carry more than just stone and legend. They carry memory, energy, influence, and perhaps the Church knows better than anyone. Some artifacts are too powerful to leave in the open, so the question remains, is it truly just a bathtub? Or is the Vatican sitting on a relic of corruption, madness, and fallen empire, still echoing through time? 6. The missing books of the Bible, stories erased from Scripture. The Bible, a sacred text revered for centuries, but what if some of its pages had quietly vanished? When the King James Bible was first translated in the early 17th century, it contained 80 books. By 1684, however, 14 books had been removed, the text now known as the Apocrypha. Among these lost books, Ezra's, Tobit, Judith, the Wisdom of Solomon, Baruch, the Song of the Three Holy Children, and Maccabees. Stories, prayers, and teachings once considered integral, now hidden from public view. Some scholars argue the Church removed them to simplify doctrine or suppress ideas. Others see a darker possibility, a deliberate effort to control faith, reshape history, and even alter names, like changing Yahushua to Jesus. For centuries, faithful readers believed in a Bible that was incomplete. The question remains, what truths were quietly buried, and how might they have changed the story we think we know? 7. The fake mummy scandal at the Vatican, ancient bones, modern deception. Deep beneath the towering ceilings of the Vatican museums lies one of the world's most astonishing collections of ancient relics. Gold, relics, sacred bones, and among them a row of glass coffins, Egyptian mummies, so old, so fragile that even standing near them feels like trespassing on history itself. For decades, millions walked past them, believing they were staring into the faces of the ancient dead. But in 2015, a team of researchers made a discovery that would shake the Vatican's collection to its core. Routine X-rays, simple scans, nothing out of the ordinary until the images appeared. Something wasn't right. Inside, two of the mummies, labeled as children, were adult skeletons. Not from ancient Egypt, but from the Middle Ages, and wedged within one of the bodies, a rusted iron nail from the 19th century. Not ceremonial, not symbolic, just hammered in to hold the body together. These weren't sacred relics, they were frauds. But who would dare fake a mummy? And more importantly, why? Historians traced it back to a bizarre era known as mummy mania, a time when the rich and powerful craved Egyptian artifacts not for science, but for status. Demand soared, supplies dwindled, and so the forgers went to work. Real bones, fake wrappings, sold to collectors, sold to museums, sold even to the Vatican. The Church insists it never knew, and perhaps it didn't. But one question now echoes through every marble hallway. If forged mummies could lie undetected beneath the Vatican for centuries, what else is hiding in the dark, still waiting to be found? 8. The Influence of Extraterrestrials, ancient visitors in secret archives. In the 1920s, a Russian professor named Genrikh Ludwig claimed he was granted access to the Vatican's secret archives, a place so restricted that only a handful of people had ever stepped inside. The archives were said to stretch for dozens of miles, containing tens of thousands of documents, some dating back hundreds of years. What drew the most attention, according to Ludwig, was not political or religious history, but the mention of extraterrestrials. He claimed that some ancient texts referenced non-human beings who assisted early civilizations, including the Egyptians, the Maya, and the Sumerians. These beings were said to have taught humanity how to build cities, develop agriculture, and even invent written language. Some of the documents allegedly described ancient weapons of immense power, similar to nuclear arms, and even recounted incidents in which cities, such as Babylon, were destroyed by extraordinary forces. No physical evidence of these claims has ever been made available outside the archives, leaving Ludwig's story unverifiable. Many historians and researchers dismiss his account as fantasy or fabrication, yet the claims align with questions that have long intrigued independent researchers. How could ancient civilizations achieve such advanced knowledge in engineering, astronomy, and mathematics without outside assistance? Could these texts, if authentic, suggest that early humans received guidance from sources beyond Earth? Whether or not the Vatican ever possessed such evidence remains unknown. The story raises the possibility that knowledge of extraordinary events or beings could have been quietly preserved behind the walls of the Vatican for centuries, far from public view. 9. The Ark of the Covenant, lost relic of God? For thousands of years, it has been whispered about in legends, feared in scripture, and sought after by kings, conquerors, and secret societies. The Ark of the Covenant. According to the Bible, it was no ordinary artifact. It was a sacred chest built by the Israelites to house the stone tablets of the 10 Commandments themselves, crafted from acacia wood, coated in pure gold inside and out, and crowned with 2 golden angels, their wings stretched wide above the lid. But this was not just a symbol. It was believed to contain the presence of God. Blessings to those who honored it, death to those who defied it. Ancient texts claim the Ark could level armies, split rivers, even unleash divine fire. But then, around 587 BC, it vanished. When Babylonian forces invaded Jerusalem and destroyed the first temple, the Ark disappeared from history without a trace. Was it destroyed, stolen, hidden? Some say it lies buried beneath Jerusalem. Others claim it was carried across deserts, kept safe by secret guardians. And then there is one theory whispered more quietly than the rest, that deep within the Vatican's underground vaults, far from public eyes, the Ark of the Covenant still rests today, locked away, not for protection, but because its power is too great for the world to witness again. Is it myth? Is it real? Or is the Ark waiting for the moment it is meant to return? 10. Confronting the Devil, the Vatican's battle with demonic forces. For many years, the Vatican kept its work on exorcisms shrouded in silence. But one man broke that silence, Father Gabriel Amorth, Italy's chief exorcist for over 25 years. Father Amorth spoke openly. He claimed to have performed more than 70,000 exorcisms. To him, evil was real, active, and sometimes dangerously close. He described incidents that chilled even the faithful. In 1981, demonic forces, he said, tried to attack Pope John Paul II. Years later, on Christmas Eve 2008, a woman named Susanna Miolo lunged at Pope Benedict XVI during Mass. Security intervened, and no one was seriously hurt. But exactly 1 year later, on Christmas 2009, Susanna returned. This time she knocked the Pope to the ground before a stunned congregation. Doctors concluded she had mental health issues, but Father Amorth believed otherwise. To him, Susanna was possessed, a vessel for malevolent forces sent to harm the Pope. He insisted demons could speak, hide, and act through humans, moving unseen within the world. Father Amorth passed away in 2016, leaving a legacy both revered and controversial. His work continues to spark debate. When reason fails, could something darker be pulling the strings from behind the veil? 11. The Vatican and the Holocaust, a deeply spiritual experience. Deeply spiritual experience. During World War II, millions of Jews were imprisoned and murdered under the orders of a man feared across the world. In that darkest of hours, When humanity cried out for justice, many turned to one of the most powerful religious institutions on earth, the Vatican. But instead of action, they were met with silence. Pope Pius V, leader of the Catholic Church during the Holocaust, has been criticized for saying almost nothing. He never condemned Hitler by name. He never issued a public attack against the Nazis. So people asked, why? Was he afraid? Or was it indifference? Recently, secret Vatican archives from that era were finally opened. Inside, historians found chilling letters from Jewish leaders, begging the Pope to intervene, but instead of shouting from the rooftops, the Vatican only whispered in private. Some claim Pope Pius XIV was secretly helping, hiding thousands of Jews in convents and monasteries, a silent protector, working from the shadows. Others argue the Church was more focused on protecting itself than speaking the truth. To this day, the Vatican insists that Pius XIV was a man of compassion, that he did what he could in dreadful times. But critics ask, is silence in the face of evil its own form of betrayal? Could the Vatican have stopped the Holocaust? We may never know. 12. Unidentified flying object over the Vatican. A silent encounter in the holy sky. In June of 2007, something strange appeared in the skies above St. Peter's Basilica. Witnesses claimed they saw a glowing silver-orange disc hovering silently above the Vatican dome, circular, metallic, motionless in the air. It made no sound, and yet it held every eye that saw it. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished. A few photos surfaced online. Briefly, but within days, they disappeared. No official investigation, no Vatican statement, no explanation. Some dismissed it as a weather balloon or a misidentified aircraft, but others believe it was something more. Not an accident, but a deliberate visitation. Among independent researchers, there are theories that the Vatican has long been aware of extraterrestrial contact. Some claim ancient manuscripts in the secret archives speak of non-human beings interacting with humanity throughout history. If that's true, then the 2007 incident wasn't random. It was a reminder, a message delivered in silence and erased just as quietly. Whether you believe every word or walk away with more questions than answers, one thing is certain: the Vatican is more than a religious institution. It is a vault of history, power, and mystery. If you enjoyed uncovering these hidden stories, don't let this journey end here. Hit like to help this video reach more curious minds, and subscribe with notifications on so you never miss the next revelation. Trust me, what's coming next is even wilder than what you've just heard. Until then, stay curious, stay questioning, and remember, sometimes the truth is hidden in plain sight.